This is kind of a little relevant. I'm actually originally from Kitchener-Waterloo. It's where I was born and raised. Yes, I know we were talking about the University of Waterloo. And in the sort of late 80s, when I was in high school, the internet didn't exist. Yeah, I know, it was crazy. You actually had to keep yourself occupied in random ways. So now I know that I suffer from some severe ADHD. And in high school, there was all these like weird trends like hacky sacking and, juggling and all this kind of stuff. And I got infatuated with the art of the balloon, which is actually a bit of a sort of lost art, or we're slowly losing it thanks to, environmentalists and the fact that they don't make good latex balloons anymore. So this could be the last time I do it, but the reason I really liked balloons is that it would keep my hands busy and it let me do all sorts of crazy stuff. So in 1993, I started a business straight out of high school called The Silly People. And me and my friends would go to kids' parties, make balloons, tell jokes, do whatever, just so that we could get some beer money. And that was it. But essentially what I learned out of a book, by the way, no videos, had to go to the library, is that it's very detailed and oriented and so many twists and things, and everything took so long to make. No. Can you hold this for me? And then, when I was 23 years old, I was working at a festival in Uptown Waterloo called the Waterloo Busker Carnival. I was there making balloons, doing some stuff, and I met this gentleman named Rami Salami. Yeah. He was a balloon twisting clown from Boston. So he worked at Faneuil Hall in Boston, traveled all over the world, and at this point in my career, I have not left Ontario. I'm doing small little things for friends, parties, that kind of thing. But what I noticed about Rami was he wasn't trying to be detailed. His whole thing was speed. It was all about speed. How fast can you make something? How fast can you make a balloon? Boom. That's his dog. That's it. I know you're clapping for the speed, but look, it doesn't really look like a dog, right? But it didn't matter. That was the thing that made me super interested, because the second I saw him make a dog like that, I was like, wow, it's all about your personality and what you're doing to the person in front of you. So it's not just you're pumping out balloons, trying to create and use your imagination, you're putting it all on the other person. So obviously, as soon as he did that balloon, I was like, sky's the limit. And then my 20-something-year-old brain went, wow. You don't have to be skilled. You just need imagination. So I started talking to Rami, and he said to me, I'm going to Spain to work in a place called Cadiz and on the Ramblas. And I've never been to Spain. Anyone ever been to Spain? Couple people. ¿Cuántas personas hablan español? How many people speak Spanish? Couple people. So guys, in 1998, my very first trip to Europe with Rami Salami, let's ignore the fact that a 58-year-old man is like, hey, 20-something-year-old young boy, would you like to come to Europe with me? It was before the internet, so I said yes, right? I didn't know. So I went. He paid for my flight, he paid for my trip, he paid for everything. Little did I know that he was just gonna put me to work. Which was fine, because I was there for the experience, and I already knew he didn't have the skills I had. So it didn't matter. It was all about just an experience and making it happen. So we arrive in Spain. The first 2 days we're working on the Ramblas, which is in Barcelona, and picture Spark Street Mall in Ottawa, big, long pedestrian mall, but 300 years older. It's just that. So we set up, we started making balloons, we started doing the thing, it was great. Now it was time for the big show. So Cadiz is the place in Spain where they celebrate the 40 days before Lent. It's the big Mardi Gras of Europe. So it's a small little town on the southern tip of Spain, and 1 million people come to this festival. The town is one of the oldest towns in Europe, and I was super excited to be there. So everything is going great. We're sitting, we're making balloons, we're talking to people, everything is happening. I'm gonna show you one more balloon I made on that trip, because Rami knew how to make 3 things. He could make a dog, a sword, or a flower, and that was it. Those are the 3 things on offer. He didn't care. He asked the kid, do you want a balloon? Not what color would you like, or what would you like me to make? Balloon. That was it. It was easy, right? I had to learn how to say 2 things in Spanish. Hello, what is your name? And do you want a balloon? Tienes un globo. Exactly. So he was making swords, and of course, I didn't want to do that because to me, it felt like he was being a little too, I don't know, not creative. So on that same trip in 1998, I came up with this little guy. Yeah. I tell people it's a hairdryer because, believe it or not, the amount of parents who lose their minds when you hand a child a balloon laser gun is crazy. So this is the second last night of the festival. We've been doing great. We have huge crowds, we're making money, it's all going well. And then, around 7 p.m., the night before the festival finishes, 2 police officers show up right behind where we're operating. And I was like, well, this doesn't look good, but we've got permits, we're allowed to be here. My friend Rami Salami speaks Spanish. I'm in great shape. So we're working, the police are trying to talk to me, and I don't speak Spanish, and I keep saying, unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish. I show them my permit, and then all of a sudden, my partner, Rami Salami, says, they're arresting you. Yeah, I had the same sort of what and confusion that set in. So what happened was a woman came and sat down in front of me and asked me for a balloon, and I produced. And then we had this big sort of hat where people would put their money in, tips, propinas. We were busking. We were street performers. That's how it worked. So she went to tip me and could not find her wallet. So the obvious conclusion is the balloon guy stole my wallet. That what was running through her head, even though she stood there and watched me sit on a park bench and twist balloons over and over and over and not move. Somebody needed to be blamed for her lost wallet. So the police, talking to me in Spanish and trying to get some translation through my friend Rami, ended up hooking me up with the handcuffs and pushing me into a car like you've seen them do on television. So at this point, I am horrified because this is the scariest thing that has ever happened to me, and probably still to this day, the thing I dread more than anything. I'm being arrested. So I got taken to the police station, and at this point, I still don't know why I'm being arrested. I don't know the story about the lady and her purse and the fact that she couldn't find it and called the police. All I know is that they have a clipboard in front of me with a pen, and the only 2 things I can read are the date and my name. Everything else is in Spanish, and I decide, nope, I'm not signing that. I'm just not gonna sign that. There was no one in this police station who could speak English. There was no translation apps. I refused to sign it because my brain had seen way too many movies in the 80s. That's just what it was. So then here it is, booking time. They got fed up, I wouldn't sign it. So then fingerprints, mug shots, they took my shoelaces, and I spent 22 hours in a Spanish jail. Yes, and I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a lot of fun. This building had to be at least 600 years old. It was the basement, and it was one of those solid concrete rooms with a clickety-clickety-click sort of locking door. So I'm in there, crying, freaking out. They took my passport, they have my ID. I don't know where my friends are. I'm alone, I'm in Europe for the very first time, and I'm like, my performing career is over. This is it. I'm never getting out of this alive. It's gonna be crazy. So the whole time I'm in there, I'm trying to not lose my mind. But it was very difficult. I had a lot of time to think. And ultimately, in the morning, when they let me sit down in front of a judge, I just started crying and losing my mind. And the judge basically says to me, well, you should have just signed the paper. Because all the paper said was, you were accused of something, and we have to prove that in court, so you gotta come back and we'll discuss it and figure it out then. That's it. If I knew how to read Spanish, I could have just signed and went straight back to work and wouldn't have this story. But because I refused, I got to meet a gentleman in my cell who decided to take a shit in the corner of the cell, and then ask if I wanted to share his cookies. Yes. I don't know why he was allowed a bag of cookies in the cell, because they took everything from me. My cigarettes, my money, my wallet, my everything. It was insane. So I sat down in front of the judge, I paid whatever fine it was gonna be, and then they released me. And the very next morning, I have this photo of myself walking down the stairs of the police station, and all of my, oh, I forgot to mention this, clown makeup had been all run down my face like some horrible mascara incident. I was holding my synthetic yellow clown wig in my hands and still wearing my one-piece fleece jumpsuit, multicolored. So somewhere in Cadiz, Spain, there is a mugshot of me with some serious, insane clown posse makeup and a crazy getup. But I was released, my passport was given back to me. I essentially booked a flight and went home the very next day because I didn't think they were gonna let me leave the country. I was so scared. And 2 years later, Rami and I actually went back to the same festival. Yeah, we did. That is basically my first sort of, I read a book once and said, if you want to be a street performer or a busker or some sort of outdoor artist, you will spend up to 1 year of your life in jail. And that's the thing, and I get that, because in Europe or even in here, if you show up, you're not allowed to work, they cause you. So anyway, my 22 hours to me is a year, and now I don't even like walking past a police station. However, my Spanish is much better now. Yes. Thank you so much.